This is the OFN Today on the Ourlads Football Network as we talk Tennessee Titans football with Teresa Walker, who covers the Titans for the AP. And Teresa, it's good to have you talking with us once again under the circumstances. We already had this interview booked. We were looking forward to a big 3-0 versus 3-0 matchup. But still, it's not a bad time to get you on with the Titans off to a good start this season.
It is a good start. And, we knew that in a pandemic, we've seen what the coronavirus has done to the college football schedule. It was only a matter of time that somebody in the NFL was affected by it. They're doing the daily tracing, the daily testing, the wearing the devices, but it's a pandemic, and that makes it a challenge. And the Titans now are the first team to deal with it, and the NFL now has had their first postponement due to the coronavirus. Look, the University of Memphis in college football have not played a game since the opening week, September 5th. They had one game canceled with Purdue, the Big Ten shut down, and then their testing canceled the game or postponed a game with Houston, and then canceled a game with UT San Antonio. So they've lost 3 games to it. And now we're at the point where we're going to wait for the NFL to say, okay, this game's going to be made up at a certain point. There's a lot of speculation when that could happen. The Titans have a bye week 7, and the Steelers play the Ravens that week, and they both have byes week 8. Easiest solution seems to be just flipping those around, but we're going to have to wait and see what the NFL does on this situation. And fingers crossed that maybe they can tweak the protocols a little bit more here and help limit this situation. It just doesn't feel like this will be the last, though.
Yeah, I mean, I had now again, I don't know if this is a different scenario. I'm assuming that they had 50, 100 different scenarios, and what would be the scenario? See, I figured, and I'm thinking maybe a lot of fans figured, well, you would still play as long as you only had a couple of guys that had it. And then they would be on the outs, and everybody talked about what happens if the quarterback, all the whole drama about what if the quarterback, you have to stash the quarterback in a different state. So now the first team gets it. I don't even, the players that I heard, they're not star players. The other people were part of the office. So why couldn't they play?
Well, here's the thing. One of those people is defensive captain Daquan Jones.
Okay.
He is a key piece of this team.
There you go. Okay.
Okay, he's a big piece in the middle of that defensive line. Long snapper Bo Brinkley. Remember the guy who's been named today the AFC Offensive Player or Special Teams Player of the month of September, Stephen Gostkowski. He made 6 field goals on Sunday in a win. He has won each of their first 3 games with kicks inside the final 2 minutes. The snapper is a key piece of that operation.
Sure.
So now we'll find out, hopefully within the next hour when the Titans make a roster move, who the latest player is. But those personnel, guess what? We don't know if they're front office people or, we know that one assistant coach, outside linebackers coach, Shane Bowen, who calls the defensive schemes on Sunday during games, he was the first one to come down with it that we knew last Saturday. So, these could be coaches. Mike Vrabel's not saying who those personnel people are, but
okay.
For the folks having the closest contact to players are the coaches, equipment guys. So, and the Titans had to scramble on Sunday in Minnesota. Mike Vrabel was working with Matt Edwards and a defensive assistant, working with the outside linebackers, calling the defense and things like that. And the special teams coordinator Craig Aukerman was wearing a headset and helping cover, keeping an eye on game situation. Hey, do we need to challenge? Do we need to take a timeout? And helping out. But if those are all coaches, guess what? That, Mike Vrabel might be a one-man band on the sideline if you're not careful. So,
sure.
And here's the thing, they're still waiting. And I asked Mike Vrabel about this earlier. The contact tracing is still going on. So they should have those numbers tomorrow. But, when you toss a pebble in, one positive test, it's affected college football. I mean, University of Tennessee had like 44 guys out of a practice a few weeks ago because of the contact tracing and positive tests. So, if we know that it's a defensive lineman, we know that there's a linebacker, we know that there's a practice squad tight end. Well, how close were they to other people, their teammates, during practices that they were available before testing? So that, while there's total of 12 people in the organization that we know have tested positive since Saturday, since the results started coming in, that we don't know how big a ripple that effect that has for the team. As of now, the Titans are hoping to learn from the NFL that they can get back in their building Monday or Tuesday and start preparing for their next game, which would be another undefeated matchup if Buffalo wins their game this weekend. The Buffalo Bills are set to
Yes.
come in. So, it's still kind of a wait and see situation. We're waiting for the next batch of test results to come in.
Okay.
Titans and Steelers are now on a bye week, but they still have to test daily. That's part of the problem of being in a pandemic.
So you think that let's just say because Atlanta had one player and they were able to play. Do you think if it was we know for sure it's 3 players, that's it. There's no guessing here. You think they probably go ahead and play?
Yeah, I mean the Titans and the Steelers, per the NFL, were preparing to play this game Monday or Tuesday,
Okay.
and that's the thing that announcement came yesterday after they had the latest one person who was added to that list, and you had at that point 4 players. If it's limited like that, then yes, it is easy to treat it like okay, they're injured, they're unavailable.
Yes.
That's why the practice squad was expanded. That's why they protect 4 players on that practice squad each week, 4 games, and are able to call up a couple of players on Saturday to boost that roster size to give them their choices on Sunday for the active roster.
Yes.
So they did try to accommodate that, but when you've got that many people, it's not so much
that makes
there's
sense.
total of 12 people right now in that
That's too
organization
many.
are dealing with it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We got about another 8 minutes with you, so let's get right to the team now. One last thing, and that's regarding the opposition, because a lot of fans in Pittsburgh aren't happy. Oh, how come Tennessee, and why is it our fault? My point of view on this is, this is what everybody signed up for. And everybody understood that whether it was going to be the individual's fault or not, and in most circumstances, it wasn't going to be the individual's fault. It was going to be everybody else's, and I'm not saying fault, but it was going to be someone else contracting it. And you were going to have to understand how to deal and adapt. And this is what's happening. Pittsburgh, it might have been Tennessee's players, but it's the league. And that's the way I look at it from an outside observer, not a Tennessee or Pittsburgh fan. It's a league issue, and Pittsburgh and other teams are going to also have to deal with this. This isn't the first time. I mean, it is the first, but it won't be the last.
Exactly. And that's the situation. I mean, it just happened to be the Tennessee Titans to deal with this first in the NFL. All teams in the NFL are, bringing in players, look at the San Francisco 49ers and the Broncos and how many injuries they've had. Players are still being brought in. And when players go to a team to work out, there is a process. They come in and they quarantine, they test, they quarantine, they test, and it's a period over 4 days. And then if you're still good, then on that 5th day, then you can get in the building. That might end up being a protocol that they change to better account for the possible incubation period. The Titans added a player to their practice squad on September 21st. They added him to the COVID reserve list on September 24th. The next day, Shane Bowen, the outside linebackers coach, he tests on Saturday. The result comes back as a positive, and that might be where it started. Nobody knows. Mike Vrabel said yesterday, nobody knows where this, originated. But, if you think that it's just the Titans, and for the people thinking, well, why don't they just put it at the end of the season, play it then? Why affect other teams? Because if they do play this game week 7, then that's forcing Baltimore to take their bye, the week later and just, shoving something or that week and shove things around.
Yeah.
That's the simplest move at this moment. If we start getting more of these, and if you look at college football, how are we not?
Sure.
Then at a certain point, it just becomes mass confusion on how you get all these games in.
Yeah.
So, I wish that this would be the only one. I think the NFL would be ecstatic if that were the case. Unfortunately, it won't be.
No. Okay, let's I guess we should try like a rapid fire here because I have a bunch of questions I want to get through to you. So let's start with Vic Beasley. He played for the first time last week, correct?
Yes, 16 snaps, played for practiced all week last week, and saw him a little bit, but it's going to be. Here's a guy that you would think that with time And he didn't pass his physical till September 5th. So as more time goes along, you would expect to see more of him, especially with Mike Vrabel and the Titans working with him to help get him to the level that he wants to be. He wants to get back to being one of the NFL's top pass rushers, and that's what he's working to be. We'll see.
And they need that because the team only has 4 sacks through 3 games.
Yes, they've had some pressures. They've made the plays that they've needed when they had to, but they absolutely have to get more pressure on the quarterback.
What's the biggest issue? Is it the secondary?
The secondary has not been helped, but their numbers at outside linebacker have been thin. Harold Landry in week 2 played almost every snap of the game. Jadeveon Clowney in week 2 with no preseason, he played 62 of 75 snaps. That's just such a challenge for them right now. So, they've got Vic Beasley back, hoping to get a Derek Roberson back. He's a young guy and undrafted last year out of a Texas school that they really like. And he's a guy who could give them some depth. One of the guys who's on the reserve COVID list now is Kamale Correa, another outside linebacker. So numbers there seem to be an issue. But yes, the secondary has struggled. If you watch Justin Jefferson in Minnesota, he ran all around them and had 175 yards receiving. So this delay, this postponement of the Steelers game, maybe helps the Titans get starter Adoree Jackson back in that secondary, and then the pieces can kind of slide back into place as the Titans had hoped and planned to have.
Yeah, because it looks like Malcolm Butler has been struggling a little bit so far this season.
He's been working hard. He did make 2 pass breakups in the end zone, and in a 1-point win, those were definitely crucial plays.
Okay, Jeffrey Simmons, let's talk about something real positive, because outside of Tennessee, not a lot of fans know who he is, but he's having a monster part of the season. I know it's only 3 games, but this is a special player on the rise.
Absolutely. If not for an ACL torn in February 2019, this is a kid who is being seen as a possible top 10 pick. He slid to the Titans at number 19, and the Titans see enough out of his potential that they traded 5-time Pro Bowler Jarrell Casey to Denver in March, and now Casey is on the IR list with a torn biceps tendon. And Jeffrey Simmons, he's been playing without the brace on the knee, and you can see why people thought he would go so high in the draft. If you watched him on Sunday, yes, he got a penalty for hitting Kirk Cousins, but he was tearing things up and taking double teams. He's so fast, can get into the backfield really quickly. I'm looking for this kid to just keep going up, up, up.
Injury news. You mentioned Jackson, Taylor Lewan, A.J. Brown.
A.J. Brown, got to think that if it were a serious issue, they would put him on IR, keeping him out at least 3 games if he were needing that much time. He missed the 2nd game of the season. This would have been number 3, the 2nd game that he would have missed. No, I'm sorry, the 3rd game that he would have missed. So, and we don't know that he would have missed it. So maybe this extra week gives him a chance to get back in the lineup. Taylor Lewan, we weren't going to get an injury report now that they're not practicing, but there were reports that the shoulder injury is not that bad, and the week off should give him a chance to be available, you would think, next week against the Bills.
Okay, and as far as Corey Davis, with Brown out, it looks like he has stepped up, and he is performing the way that the organization has been hoping to see from Corey since they drafted him in the 1st round.
Absolutely. I mean, he's, you see I was looking at the numbers of Juju Schuster-Smith, and Corey Davis had more yards on fewer catches. So, he's been a guy who's coming through and making some big catches for them. And the fun part for the Titans is when A.J. Brown gets back, then you've got Corey Davis and Brown.
Yes.
What are defenses going to do at that point?
And Jonnu Smith.
Yes, and Khalif Raymond had a 100-yard game the other day with a 61-yard catch in Minnesota.
Okay, and then Derrick Henry, his average is down from 5.1 to 3.9. Is that a big issue, considering his yards per game is actually more than last year?
No, not at this point. I mean, at least Derrick Henry doesn't mind the workload. The Titans aren't worried. Yes, he's on an average for 400 and something carries, which would be an NFL record. But Darrington Evans, the rookie they drafted out of Appy State to, help be his backup, he just played his 1st game in Minnesota. So would think that those carries start getting eased up a little bit. And the Titans are still working on their run game, trying to fine tune it so that in that 3rd and 4th quarter, we can see Derrick Henry maybe pop pop off some of the long runs we saw him do so well last year.
Teresa, if they hold the Pittsburgh game at midseason, maybe that'll be the time we'll get you on again. I know you got to run. Great job as always. Thanks for doing this, and we look forward to talking to you again later on during the season.
Thank you so much, Greg, and I appreciate your time.